Hello everyone, Spencer here. Today we are going to be retouching this image. This is for a girl who has a website. I'm not sure what the website is about, but she needs her image to be retouched. She uses it as part of a background for a marquee or part of a section for her website. So as you can see, I already set up the width to be 1600 pixels and the height to be 1000 pixels. And what we're going to do is remove the background, and we're gonna have to add in this little chunk of space right here because that was not taken, or that was not there when she took the picture. So remove the background, make sure that the hair looks natural. We need to widen the teeth and the eyes, and then make the eyes pop out a little bit. Those are the requests, and that's what we're gonna do. And it shouldn't take too long, so let's go ahead and get started, shall we? First thing that I want to do is I'm gonna hold Control and click on New Layer, and that's going to add a layer underneath rather than above, and you don't have to go around moving things up and down. Save a little bit of time. I'm going to fill the back layer by holding Control Backspace, and that's going to fill the back layer, or whatever layer I'm selecting, with the background color that is selected right here. So that's going to be a gray, just so that I can see a little bit easier. I'm going to add a mask here, and normally some people would go in and make a selection and probably adjust that selection until they think it looks perfect. For me, I prefer to just go in with a brush on the mask tool or on the mask and start removing the background. And I'll go ahead and get in on these edges, make them as clean as I can make them. They don't need to be perfect. Nobody's gonna notice if a few of these pixels are off. And the people who do notice are the ones that I don't really care for as clients. They're way too particular. You don't need to really have those pixels. It's kind of ridiculous if anybody thinks that. So I'm just going to go in. Don't worry about the hair not looking natural yet. Yes, there's a sharp edge here, but it's going to look great by the time that I'm done. Okay, that's the background removed. Let's go ahead and fix this chunk a little bit first before we do anything else. I'm going to make a selection right here and just go in with Control Shift X for the liquify tool and start bringing some of this hair down to the end right here. And it doesn't need to look perfect, but I do need it to look a little bit more natural, because then I can work with it from around this point right here. I'm going to, these edges right here, I'm going to push them downward because I'm going to make it look like the hair is kind of folding inward, or like going behind her from here. That shouldn't be too difficult, like that. Check our preview, and that already looks a lot better. Obviously, the pixels are now affected and stretched, so it's gonna look a little strange, but this is a low quality image to begin with. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so let's go ahead and we shall start up here. We're gonna start adding some stray hairs. We're gonna have the mask selected, make our brush 1 pixel or 2 pixels wide. Usually halfway, like a 50 or 60 opacity brush, and you go into your brush settings, shape dynamics, fade, and I'm gonna set this to 150, and then we can hide that. And now with a white brush, just drag it into a circular motion from the inside of the hair around into the outside of the image, and back and forth. The closer you are inside towards the hair, the thicker you want, or not the thicker, but the more you want to focus on that area. Adding in stray hairs like this is going to make things look so much more natural and a lot more realistic. You will love it. So just keep adding stray hairs. Don't worry about the color. Obviously, this doesn't look like hair right here. You can just start seeing the background, and that doesn't look great. Easy to fix in just a few minutes. I'll show you. keep adding those stray hairs all around the edges. The one thing that I love about retouching and Photoshop is even if something doesn't look great while you're doing it, you're already retouching it, so you can make it look great. It looks a lot better than it did a minute ago, and that means that you can keep making it look better and better until it looks perfect for you. A lot of people have trouble getting to that point. They start doing some of this and they're like, oh, that looks terrible. Keep going. It might look terrible now, but it won't look terrible in a minute. So doing the mask right here, that's not going to do anything because there's no image there. If we turn off the mask, you can see there's still no image there. While if we go up here, you can see the image is there. There's no image here, so we're going to have to add it in. And we can do that with a stamp, we can do that with the brush. There's a few different ways that we can do that. I'm going to first add the hair up here. Maybe reduce the opacity a little bit for this part. And that should be good. Now I'm going to go into the image itself. So select the image rather than the mask. Go with stamp. Set it to about 40 opacity. And well, actually right here we're going to want to use the darken mode. You don't want to do that everywhere, but because there's a little bit of a highlight there and I don't want that highlight in the image, go with the darken mode. And you can see we removed that and we added color into those strands. I'm going to do the same thing, but since these are strands themselves, I'm not too worried about the texture in them. So I'll grab the hair from anywhere and just darken a little bit. Lower the opacity and darken this hair. Right here we want to have a little bit more of a red / blue tone that she has to this image. Start going along this edge. Make sure that you have it set to current layer, because then you might start getting some gray or whatever you have your background color set to. Don't want to do that. So I'm just going to keep going over with the current layer colors. And these parts right here, I'm going to make my mode normal and start adding in some red, because these are all attached to red, very vibrant hair colors. We want to make it look like it's supposed to be together. And as you can see, that already looks a lot better. Here's with the background, here's without the background. And obviously there's some hair, like this chunk of hair is not being added back in, but it still looks natural and it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Let's go ahead and add the hair here. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to hide our background layer because I don't want to get any of the gray, and what I'm doing on this new layer is using a stamp and using current and below for the sample. So set the opacity to like 50% and just start grabbing and adding it in. And this is exactly just like what we did with adding the stray hairs before, but now we're just using the stamp tool rather than the brush tool on a mask. So keep adding those in so that everything looks good for you. Let's put this background in. You can see it a little bit better what we're working with. I'm not too worried about this little edge here. We'll get that fixed in just a few minutes. And adding that circular motion in every once in a while is going to make it look like the hair is kind of folding in on itself instead of just ending where it is. Alright, now here's where it's going to start really looking good. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of a fade, Well, actually, no. We'll do that last. We're gonna use a brush. We're gonna do the same thing that we did with the hair. And instead of 150, let's just do like 25 on the fade amount. Make sure your brush is set to black this time instead of white, because we're gonna be removing some of the hair here instead of adding it. A little bit higher opacity. Are we on? Yep, we're on the image. There we go. And you can start seeing by removing the edges here, it looks a little bit more natural. I think I'm gonna adjust the size though to like 50. Now we have her shirt coming down here, so we don't want to remove too far in because that's going to be where her shirt is. So let's just add that back in, and let's remove, whoops, I don't want to do that. Remove our shape dynamics so we can easily add that back in. There we go. And now these edges right here, we're going to use a soft brush, 50% opacity, and just go over with the black on those very sharp edges, because we don't want those. We want this to look natural. And then we will soften this edge right here with her shirt. And there you go. That's the hair. Now all I need to do is widen the teeth and their eyes. So I'm going to do that by, oh, actually, let me see this. Yeah, that's right, I forgot this part. We need to fade on the inside because we don't want those random hairs coming out. Looks a little strange. And then right here, we still need to fade this pixel. You wanna kind of rush, because when you're doing this for your actual job, you don't want to spend too much time focusing on the little details. You want to kind of be able to produce these images at a quick rate. You know, that way you make a profit. So those little details, you want to get them, but you also don't want to spend too much time worrying about every little detail. Alright, let's go ahead and create an adjustment layer. I will do hue saturation. Just drop the saturation, up the lightness, not too bright. Invert the mask with Control I, and then using a white brush on a low opacity. Make sure your shape dynamics are off because we were just using those. Start adding in white here, and then remove it from those parts you don't want it in. Same thing goes for the teeth. Usually towards the inside or the edges of the mouth, you don't want to widen them too much because then it just looks a little unnatural. But towards the front, feel free to widen them as much as you'd like. People tend to really like that when their teeth look really white, obviously. Alright, and then she wanted her eyes to kind of pop out. Not literally. But to stand out and shine in the image. So a good way to do that is by adding levels. Grab it from the right and reduce it down a bit. We will invert this mask using a very low opacity, like 20, on a white brush. Just start adding in some lightness at the bottom here. And then same thing on the other side. The bottom of the eye, just add in that lightness. And you can see that really makes the eyes pop out a lot more. So let's go ahead and check out our original image. There's the original, and there's the new one. We're all done. That's basically it. If you guys like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments below. I like kind of just sharing what I do on an everyday basis. I was thinking of live streaming, just me working. I don't know how that would do though. There are some days where I just literally don't have work because, you know, it's hard to get a job, but then there's other days where I'm just so focused on doing something that I don't know if I can keep up with a chat while I'm working. So I don't know, maybe just recording one image of a group of images that I'm working on every once in a while would be kind of fun, just to let you guys know what it's actually like in the world of retouching for an average image retoucher like myself. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.